encouch all of this by giving it a title, and my title is Don't Throw That Rock. Will you look at your neighbor and say, don't throw that rock? I really want to make it more emphatic than that, but to do it, I've got to borrow a word from the South, from white folk in the South and black folk in the South too. They have a word, and the word is spelled D-O-N-T-C-H-U. It's 2 syllables. Don't you? It makes grammatically acceptable what is grammatically unacceptable. Do not you throw that rock. But the U is needed for emphasis, and sometimes you need to go down south to say what you need to say. Don't you throw that rock. And if you really want to make it, you got to drop the TH from the that and say, don't you throw that rock. One word. Don't you throw that rock. As I remember in the remote recesses of ancient history, seems that I remember a boy in kindergarten or in the 1st grade. I think his name was Charles Blake. As I remember it, that little boy was on his way to school, and he found a strap, some kind of rubber strip, lying on the ground. He picked it up and carried it to school. When he got to school, he took it to the teacher and said to her, here's something with which you can whip the bad kids. This is something you can use to whip the bad kids. It was back in those days when teachers still whipped kids in school. Now my memory is very cloudy on the matter. But it seems to me that the very first bad kid that got a whipping with that strap was a little boy by the name of Charles Blake. The one that gave the teacher the strap in the first place. That little boy decided that he would never again take a strap anywhere for anybody to be whipped with for the rest of his life, because he had learned by experience that he might be the first one to get a whipping. Some of the conclusions of the incident that are described in the text verses for this morning are that nobody gets to throw a rock. Nobody gets to throw a rock. Beyond that, nobody should want to throw a rock. And also, another conclusion is that everybody deserves a rock upside their head. Jesus alone is without sin. And he is the only one that has a right to throw a rock. Look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, Jesus is the only one that has a right to throw a rock. But though he has a right to throw a rock, he does not throw rocks. As a matter of fact, he allowed himself to be stoned in our place, to be hung on a cross instead of us. For the Gospel of John chapter 3 verse 17 says that God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. So we're going to spend 3 weeks with this incident. And before we actually deal with it, let's see if we can prepare for that discussion by a preliminary exploration of the matter of sexuality and reproduction as one of the arguments for the existence of God. Sexuality and reproduction are arguments for the existence of God. God exists and has every right to direct and govern every area of our lives. Every species on earth is designed in such a way that it is driven to reproduce itself and to sustain itself. And whenever one says that something is designed, he implies the existence of a designer. An intelligent design is manifest and apparent in every part of this universe in which we live. And what I want to say today, I've just got 2 points in this message, is that few things argue more forcefully for the existence of God than the miraculous provision that God has made for the reproductive and perpetuative capacities of various life forms on the face of the earth. You cannot explain the existence of 2 very different and separate entities, male and female, that are totally compatible with one another, that are made for one another, without implying that there was and is a creator, a maker in whose mind it was all conceived. I'll say it again. You cannot explain the existence of 2 very different and separate entities, male and female, that are totally compatible with one another, that were made for one another, without implying that there was a designer, a maker, a creator in whose mind it was all conceived. Well, now, were there just 1 or 2 cases of that? One might attribute it to coincidence or to chance, but not billions of compatibilities that result in the reproduction and the perpetuation of multiple and varied life forms on the face of the earth.